it's definitely my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is Lyz Liddell. I cannot tell you how humbling it is to be the boss for Lyz. She is an absolute asset to the Secular Student Alliance, and the thing that she does the most that I love is that she makes me wrong all the time. Because I go around and I try to get people to support the Secular Student Alliance, and I tell them things like, yeah, we have 255 groups.
It's 268, Og.
See, and she just said it's 268. And anyway, all the time I am talking to people on the phone. It really does literally happen that I will be, well, on the phone, or more often what happens is I will be writing an email to somebody, and I will begin the email with, we've had this staggering growth over the last 3 or 4 years, and we have 260 affiliates, and I will go to the website and I will check, okay? And I will start writing the email, how many affiliates do we have? And then by the time I hit send on the stupid email, I will be wrong. We will have gotten an affiliate between when I have begun. This has happened more than once, which is mind-blowing to me. Somehow, Lyz manages to organize all of these groups without exploding, as Jen McCrite said, and she has all sorts of awesome ideas on how to keep your group from exploding, and I will let her tell you all about them. Please join me in welcoming her.
I just want to tell August not to feel bad, because it happens to me too. We have a sign out on our table that says, you know, we've got great growth, and look at this map of our affiliates. We print the little panels every conference we have, and between the time I print them and get to the conference, usually they're wrong. So it's not just you. I'm here today to talk about succession planning, which I apologize. I actually thought I was going to be giving a different talk today, so I'm a little rusty on this one. And the one big change I'm going to make is that we have started calling this leadership transitioning. So I could actually get in here and change it right now, but I think you're all smart and you can follow me. This is the talk of you're going to graduate someday for campus groups, or for off-campus groups. You can't lead forever. And so what I'm here to talk about is how to work within your group and how to prepare your group to survive the transition between leaderships. First, we have a warning. I'm not a PowerPoint guru. I have better things to do with my time than spend time putting like fancy backgrounds and animations in my PowerPoint slides. They're boring. It's because I expect you to listen to me. So they're there to remind you. If I talk too fast, usually you can catch what I'm saying up there. But I'm sorry, they're not prettier. All right, so I get this question a lot, this idea. But you know, my group holds elections, so that's our leadership transition plan, right? We hold elections, and the new officers take over. Okay, leadership transitions are the #1 reason I see groups fail. We audit our affiliates every semester. Every semester, I have about 10% of our groups that don't return to us. Now that I have 268 groups, that means that I'm going to have 26 or 27 groups this spring that have died since last fall. And the vast majority of those are because the leadership transition didn't work out right. Sometimes you end up with no leaders to take over. I mean, if you're a small school, this is a problem. There just aren't students who are able to put the time and energy into it. You have new leaders who are willing to step up, but they don't really have the interest, or they don't really have the dedication. Very, very often, the new leaders don't have any training. They don't know what they're doing, and they're getting thrown into the lion's den. And also very, very often on a college campus, the new leaders can be overburdened. You know, if you're a senior in your last year of college, you're looking at applying to grad school, or you're looking for a job, or you're working on a thesis, or your senior recital, and you have no time to run a student group. The most dangerous transitions for a group are after the first and second generation of leaders. I know I've got some student leaders in this room. If you founded your group, will you raise your hand? If you keep your hands up for you first people, if you took over from the person who founded your group, raise your hand. All right. How many people are running a group that don't fit those two criteria? So we're about half and half here, actually. That's pretty good. I'm going to blame that on the fact that we have some off-campus groups that have been around a little longer, and Nick always skews the results because he belongs to a really old campus group. But the first leadership transition, when the founder of the group hands the reins over to that second generation, is one of the most dangerous times available for a group. And then that second to third transition is another one that can be really dangerous. So look out for those. If you're one of those people who had your hands up, I'm talking to you. So where do we start? It doesn't matter when it is. Quite frankly, it's April, and if you're graduating next month, you have to do this very quickly. But even if you just took over as the leader of your group and you're not going to graduate for another year, another 2 years, another 3 years, you still need to start now. Planning ahead is the key to making your group survive, and the more effort and energy you put into these leadership transitions and the succession plan, the more likely it is that your group is going to be able to survive it. Take action now to make the transitions easier. We have some general leadership transition wisdom that I want to pass along. These things apply both in the leadership transition process and are generally good best practices for your group because, I mean, here's the truth of it is that we are all human, we are all mere mortals, and sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes people leave your group very quickly, very unexpectedly. We had a student group leader a number of years ago now who was he was on his bike and got hit by a car. And he was in the hospital for the rest of the semester, and the group crashed. You can't prepare for those kinds of things. I mean, you can't live expecting those kinds of things. But by implementing good best practices, you'll set your group up so that you can survive them. First, you want to cross-train. You have a certain set of things that are critical to your group. If you use Meetup with your group, then you need to have somebody who knows how Meetup works. If you have a website, you need to have someone who knows how to update that website and how to make changes to it. Your emailing list, reserving rooms with your campus, the budgeting process and getting funding from your student government. If you're an off-campus group, applying for funding from the AHA, getting reimbursements. Those are critical activities, and you have to have more than one person who knows how to do them. If you only have one person doing it, then if anything happens to that one person, you are SOL, and it sucks. Preserve your core values. Your group has goals, it has a purpose, you exist for a reason. Communicate those, write them down. Make sure that people know what those core values of your group are so that as leadership transitions happen, future leaders know what the group is about and they can carry on the group's purpose. Document. I try to document everything. The more you document, the more you're making available for future people. But at the bare minimum, you need to document the basics, like the passwords to edit your website and the admin rights to your Meetup group, and the really complicated stuff, like the process for applying for funding from your student government. Reserving rooms, people can probably figure out on their own. But the really complicated stuff and the really critical stuff you need to document. And last but not least, you want to diversify your leadership. If all of your leaders are seniors this year, that's a bad problem to have. You want to get a range of classes in your leadership, and not only do you want to get a diversity in terms of where people are in school, but you also want to have gender diversity. You want to have ethnic diversity if you can. You probably want to have diversity in the labels that your leaders call themselves or their approaches to things like working with religion and interfaith, activism and community, the different interests that they have so that you can appeal to more people as a group. So reach for those goals. These are the best practices overall, but they're particularly helpful with this leadership transition process. This is a snapshot of what a good succession plan looks like. You want to identify your key roles, take a look at where you are and figure out what you need to do. Directly approach potential leaders, nurture them and train them. Provide them support once they take over, rinse and repeat. This is an ongoing cycle. You don't get to do this just once. This is going to be something that your group should be really, really familiar with. I've come to learn in the last year or so, really, that no student group is more than 2 or 3 years old. I know that Nick's group has been around since 1997, but the group that Nick runs right now is really only 2 or 3 years old because no members are more than 2 or 3 years into the group, and no leaders have been in their positions for more than 1, 2, maybe 3 years. So this cycle is something that we've got to get used to. It's a little bit longer in the off-campus community, but it's still there. You shouldn't be running your group for 20 years. If you have been, please, you need to step down and let somebody else come in. Let's go into these a little bit more detail. Step 1, we want to identify the key roles. An ideal timeline for this is 1 semester ahead of when you're going to step out of office. If you haven't started doing this now and you're going to graduate in May, you need to do it right now. This is the point where you take a look at what your group does and figure out the positions that it needs to have to continue running. Look at the leadership positions you have. Are they necessary? Are there positions that could go unfulfilled without crashing your group? Is each position actually manageable by one person? Or do you have your superhuman treasurer who does more than any one human being could reasonably be expected to do? If you have overwhelming jobs like that, divide them, split them into 2 parts. And if you have unnecessary jobs that are unlikely to be filled, let them go. As Sharon said, stop doing what doesn't work. Don't be afraid to let things die if they're not helping your group. Once you've identified what your group needs, take a look at what your group has. Check out the resources that are available to you as a group leader, and see how you can fit the 2 together. Do you have anybody who's really excited about stepping up into a leadership position? Do you have people who you look at and say they would make a good leader, even if they haven't said anything to you about it? Is your group looking a little thin? Do you need to find ways to draw in new people from outside of your group to get into positions for leadership? I like to say plan for 2 years down the road. 2 years is a really long time in college terms. But what you want to be doing is not just planning for your next generation of leaders, but keeping a half an eye open for what's going to happen after that. That awareness in your next generation of leaders will be aware of that, and so then they know that they need to train a next generation of leaders, and they'll be looking for the same things. What sort of membership do we have? Obviously keep your eyes on the road, but glance up at the horizon every now and then, see what's coming. Awesome. This should say step 3. Directly approach potential leaders. I'm on the email lists of about 120 of our affiliate groups, and I get a lot of emails that say, hey guys, elections are coming up, who wants to run? Which is a good first step. But if that's your only step, I'm going to bet that you're going to have trouble finding new leaders. What you need to do is find those people who you think are going to make good leaders, or people who have expressed interest in leadership in the past, and approach them. Walk up to them one-on-one. Say, you know what, David, I've seen you really involved in this group this year. You've been really dedicated member. Have you thought about a leadership position? I know you're majoring in accounting. I thought you might make a really good treasurer. Let them know that you think they'd be good at it and why. Sometimes you're fitting people that aren't a perfect match, but draw on their strengths. If their strength is their passion to the group, maybe they don't need to be an accounting major. But let them know why you think they'd be good at it. A lot of studies recently have shown that the #1 factor in women running for public office is that someone has approached them directly and said that they should run. So that one-to-one communication can make a big difference. However, let them know what they're getting into. Make sure they know exactly what is going to be asked of them, what their responsibilities are. If there are special considerations that they're going to need to be aware of, like, next year we're going to be bringing in Richard Dawkins, so the accounting, the treasurer's job is going to be it's going to be a challenge because we've got to get a whole lot of funding and manage a lot of funds. Let them know. Because the worst thing you can do is tell someone, oh, come on, it'll be easy, David, you can do it, and then dump a huge pile of responsibility on them, because then they'll quit. Again, you'll be SOL, and it's a bad position. Now for the real step 4, once you have those leaders, you want to nurture them, you want to train them, you want to make sure that they are prepared with the skills it's going to take to run the group when you're gone. Have your treasurer-elect, your new treasurer, shadow your existing treasurer. Have him run a couple, have your new president-elect run a couple of events while you are still there to help him do it. Get them in, let them make some mistakes so that they can learn while they still have a safety net. Provide them with the documentation that we talked about earlier so that they know what they're doing, they know they have access to that information. Share the group running materials you have with them. Find out if your school offers training. A lot of schools I found out require training for officers, and some schools have additional training that's available on a voluntary basis. Take advantage of it. Show them where to go for help. If your campus has a student life department or an office for the clubs, or they get called all kinds of crazy things, but there are resources there that can help the future leaders. Also, tell them about the Secular Student Alliance. For off-campus groups, let them know that the AHA and American Atheists and FRFRF and Atheist Alliance International are there to provide support for them so that they know where they can go if they have questions or if they need help. Once you make that transition, the formally handed over, you have graduated, or the new year has passed and they're signed up as with the paperwork for the group, don't abandon them. Provide them with support. I recommend that if it's possible, provide a year's overlap before you graduate. If you're leading a group in your junior year, try to hand it off so you can step back during your senior year. You'll still be available. You can still provide resources for the student leaders or for your new leaders. But then you have the time to focus on your recital, your thesis, applying to grad school, applying for jobs. But you're still available if they have questions or need help. If you can't be around physically, if you are graduating, that's okay. You're allowed to graduate. We like that. Leave contact information and be responsive. Be available. If they send you an email, reply. Even if I do this a lot. My student leaders will, if they've ever sent me really complicated questions, I'll write back and say, I got your email. I can't answer it right now, but I'm going to think about it. I will get back to you. If I don't write back to you in 3 days, remind me. So that the line of communication is open. Even if you can't say anything right then, make sure that line of communication is open. Alumni interest and involvement in a group makes a really, really big difference. Again, this is something I get to watch in my office a lot because we work with one of the students from Students for Free Thought, and we have a former leader of Students for Free Thought who's very active and involved in the group. And watching this transferal of wisdom from the past to the current leaders is awesome. And it can really, really help your group. The last step is repeat. Everyone graduates. Nobody's in school forever. I mean, at least not formally. We're all students of life, but hopefully everybody's going to graduate and get their degrees and go out into the real world. So what you need to do as part of this leadership transition process, on campus and off campus, is impart to the new leaders the importance of leadership transitions and help them understand that they need to make their own leadership plan. Teach them how to do it. As you're showing them how to do your job, point out how you're doing it so they know how to do it for the next generation. The SSA has a lot of resources on leadership transitions. You can go to our website at secularstudents.org/resources. I'm sorry, I lied. Scratch that out. secularstudents.org/library, my bad. And there's a whole section on succession planning resources there that will help you, write up your own plan that can be customized to your group and then passed on with that documentation. Tips for if you are in a bind and you're going to graduate next month and you need a lot of help right now. You can get basically a written out version of this talk. There's links to this talk from other conferences. We can put you in contact with other leaders who have enacted successful leadership transitions for personal advice and assistance. And last but not least, ask questions. We're here to help student groups. I would be happy to answer questions from off-campus leaders. I do that. It's not exactly my job, but it's so cross-applicable that I can. I know the AHA has some people who can be helpful to you. American Atheists has an affiliate director who'd be happy to help. That's my contact information. Paper airplanes are my favorite way to get things, but you can also email me, catch me on a whole number of chat clients. You can call my telephone. It rings on my desk and I answer it. So thank you.